Welcome to the Demetria Obilor Show. Hope you guys had an amazing week. Thank you so much for rating this podcast and subscribing. Tell all your friends about it. And we've got some fun topics lined up for you today. The first one I feel like we can all relate to. Do you use food delivery apps? I'm talking Uber, Postmates, Grubhub, all that good stuff. What happens when the driver starts eating your food? Has that ever happened to you? I feel like it's happened to me. And then we're going to talk about something a little touchy. I'm sure you've seen that old video that's going viral of actress Emily Blunt, who fat shamed a waitress in an interview. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how it relates to cancel culture. And then we're going to talk about cinema. Are Marvel movies ruining cinema, as Scorsese has accused them of doing? And then we're going to dive into sports with number 2 Michigan and the whole sign stealing scandal. So that's going to be a good one. Make sure you stick around for that. All right, let's get to it. No shade to the hardworking Uber Eats and Grubhub drivers, but I don't like to use food delivery apps because some of y'all are eating the food. They caught this Grubhub driver in 4K earlier this month in LA. He ripped open up a bag of food with his teeth and scarfed down some Mexican food meant for some paying customers. The owner went out and confronted the guy, and I gotta give him props because he called ahead to the customer who was waiting on their food at home and told them don't eat it, and delivered new food in person. Now, that hungry driver has been fired, but this is not a one-off occurrence. I remember covering the story back in Dallas. In 2019, U.S. Foods conducted a survey of 497 delivery workers, and more than 25% of them admitted to eating food from an order. And those are just the ones who admit it. And it's just gross. A lot of small restaurants are now using those tamper-proof seals, and they need to, because food tampering by drivers hurts small business owners, because every time a customer says something's missing from an order, the restaurant pays the price. On top of the fees they're already getting charged by the apps. And it is expensive. Speaking from a customer's perspective, I really do hate all those extra fees you have to pay with food delivery apps. Something that should charge $12.99 is all of a sudden $25.56, not including tip. Also, the last time I ordered pizza, the pizza was delivered super cold. It was Little Caesars, which I love, but time is of the essence with Little Caesars. You gotta eat it quickly. It wasn't any good at that point. But even though some chain restaurants like Dickey's Barbecue or Uno's Pizzeria have reportedly seen a drop in third-party delivery sales over the past year, there are still people like my cousin who ensures places like DoorDash stay around by spending $900 a month on their app. Come on. Convenience is everything. People are willing to pay for it. I don't think that's going anywhere. Look at Amazon. Jeff Bezos is making it so you never really even have to leave your house. Down in College Station, Texas, which is about an hour and a half from Houston, Amazon customers have been enjoying drone delivery since last December. And it was announced this week that eligible Amazon pharmacy customers will have access to 60-minute drone delivery for more than 500 medications to treat conditions like flu, asthma, pneumonia, which I love because when you're sick, you want to stay at home. You don't want to get other people sick. So this is perfect. Some people, though, aren't big fans of drone delivery. Some say the noise could be annoying, but the MK30 drones that Amazon is going to be using, they're supposed to be pretty quiet. And then Amazon's going across the pond, setting up drone service in the UK and Italy, expecting to launch at undisclosed locations before the end of next year. The future is here, people. Just waiting on the flying cars now. All right, we're going to get into a touchier subject, and I'm sure you guys have seen the resurfaced video of British actress Emily Blunt from way back in 2012, where she fat-shamed a Chili's waitress while being interviewed. Emily Blunt, I love her. She's a phenomenal actress. She most recently played Kitty Oppenheimer in the new Nolan film. She deserves an Academy Award for that, in my opinion. Mary Poppins, she was in that. Sicario, love that. She's also the mom in A Quiet Place, great movie. But here's what she said.
So we went out for dinner at this at Chili's.
Man, when you go to Chili's, you can see why so many of our American friends are enormous.
Well, the girl who was serving me was enormous. I think she got freebie meals at Chili's.
Nothing wrong with that.
It really wasn't even funny, but, I guess she was playing off the fat American trope that her interviewer started, by the way. And I really do think the Brits love calling us Americans fat. We talk about their teeth, they talk about our weight, fair trade. I'll leave that to you. But Emily Blunt has since apologized, saying, quote, I just need to address this head on. As my jaw was on the floor as I was watching this clip from 12 years ago, I'm appalled that I would say something so insensitive, hurtful, and unrelated to whatever story I was trying to tell on a talk show. She says, I've always considered myself someone who wouldn't dream of upsetting anyone, so whatever possessed me to say anything like this in that moment is unrecognizable to me or anything I stand for, and yet it happened. And I said it, and I'm so sorry for any hurt I caused. I was absolutely old enough to know better. I really feel like she took ownership for what she said, and she's hoping people will trust her. And, this apology has added to the conversation of cancel culture. Now, body shaming, for example, that's something that I'm familiar with. It's happened to me before with a moment that went globally viral while I was working on TV as an anchor in Dallas. A viewer wrote a nasty Facebook comment about my body shape. Chance the Rapper got a hold of it, and the rest is history. Now, my response was, hey, you can change the channel. The woman never apologized or anything, but I didn't really care if she did. For me, I just hoped it was more of a teaching moment for her and other people. That this global conversation started by her nasty remark would help her and others see things in a new light. And I think Emily Blunt is seeing that. I believe her apology is remorseful and very sincere. I do believe that we grow over time and that some of the things we've said in the past shouldn't define who we are today. That people do deserve a shot at redemption. But the cancel culture conversation, it's really a complex one. I'm always going back and forth with it in my mind, especially when it comes to comedy and stand-up. When I was growing up, I'd be watching Eddie Murphy Raw, George Carlin, Chappelle, Bernie Mac. I ain't afraid of y'all. Richard Pryor. When I was in high school, Dane Cook was huge, okay? And some of the things these people said back then, they'd be done for today because we now live in a world where someone's biggest affront is disagreeing with you. Some people are righteous in their anger, while others are selective, picking and choosing what they feel like virtue signaling today. The people who are outraged by every joke, they would have never lasted a day where I grew up. All we did was roast each other 24/7. It was literally like the Comedy Central roast on my block every single day. So you better come prepared. You better look up those Yo Mama jokes. You better look at all of that. It was like that every day. Now, all we do is send each other reels from Instagram and binge watch Netflix. And yes, we still go to the movies, do you? I want to see Killers of the Flower Moon, and I'm excited because it's Scorsese, but I'm not so excited about it being 3.5 hours because I'd hate to have to go to the bathroom at an important plot point. All right, Oppenheimer. It was 3 hours, and I made it through, fortunately, and that was not a movie you could even miss a minute of, and it was great. You should definitely check it out. But it was just last month that Scorsese, he was doubling down on his comments that Marvel movies are not cinema. I feel like he always does this just before he releases a movie now. It's great promotion. Back in 2019, I feel like, is that when The Irishman, or around the time The Irishman was coming out too, he compared comic book movies to theme parks. And he's not the only one who feels that way. Jodie Foster said that back in 2017. Ridley Scott, the director of Alien, Blade Runner, he said the scripts suck. Denis Villeneuve, who's directed some of my favorite movies, Sicario, Prisoners, he said in an interview with a Spanish newspaper that perhaps the problem is that we're in front of too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. Perhaps these types of movies have turned us into zombies a bit. Now, hold on. I love you, Denis, but hold on. I like Marvel movies, okay? But they haven't turned me into a zombie. No one cried harder than me when Iron Man died. Thanos is the quintessential insane, half utilitarian, half nihilist villain we all needed. But I can appreciate theme park Scorsese, and I can appreciate Shakespearean cinema at the same time. And I think a lot of people can, but silver screen projects are very expensive. And if it's not already a proven success, major studios don't always want to take the risk. And that's why director Christopher Nolan, who's directed some of my favorite films, of course, Interstellar, Tenet, the Batman trilogy with Christian Bale. He had big praise for Taylor Swift and how she bypassed Hollywood studios and distributed her concert film, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, directly through AMC theaters. And it opened to a record $92.8 million domestically and $123.5 million globally, all in 3 days. That's the Taylor touch. It instantly became the top grossing concert film of all time in North America. But like I said, everything Taylor Swift does, she turns to gold. Have you seen Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce's stats right now that he's with her? Come on, but seriously, back to Scorsese's point. No, you cannot compare the timelessness of Goodfellas with Guardians of the Galaxy. But I don't think Marvel or DC are the biggest threats to the existence of real cinema. Aside from pirating movies and bootlegged Fire Sticks, I think streaming has changed the way people watch things totally. You watch one thing on Netflix and then you're like, what's next? So you end up binge watching an entire show, and the new shows on all streaming platforms are constantly being churned out, and they aren't all great, but they're easy to watch while you're scrolling scrolling on TikTok. I mean, you can watch with captions and you could just do it at home in your joggers. And more to the point, why go to the movies when you can just wait 1 to 2 months and watch it on your couch? That's not what I do, but I know a lot of people who subscribe to that movie philosophy. Like I said before when talking about the food apps, people are loving convenience and placing it above all. I don't know if we'll ever see a return to cinema because the way we've watched films has changed forever. Here's hoping. Okay, now I'm curious to know what you guys think of the whole Michigan college football sign stealing scandal. Okay, here's what's happening. According to ESPN, a low-level staffer, Connor Stallions, bought tickets to over 30 games to 11 different Big Ten schools over the past 3 years. Sources said that he'd also forwarded tickets to other people, and they'd be in those seats recording what was happening on the sidelines. There's a pattern with the kinds of seats that were purchased. They'd all be somewhere around the 45-yard line and raised up enough for a clear view of the opposite sidelines, which would be the best way to glean what plays were being called by future Michigan opponents. So first of all, it's against the rules to scout at opposing stadiums. I mean, that's been in effect since '94. Second, it's against the rules to record the signals or play calls of opposing teams on electric devices. Now, if you see it on film, you're good. If you steal the sign while in the middle of the game, it's all good, but recording them is illegal. Now, Michigan is already being investigated for recruiting during the COVID-19 dead period, so really this is the last thing they want to be dealing with right now. But last week, Coach Harbaugh denied illegally stealing signs. According to an ESPN article that quoted a longtime Power 5 assistant, sign stealing, whether legal or illegal, is incredibly rampant in this business. But some fans, they don't think it's a big deal, and Colorado's Coach Prime didn't really seem fazed by it.
You could have someone's whole game plan. They could mail it to you. You still got to stop it. It's a physical game. You got to stop it. So that's a little tough. I don't buy into a lot of that stuff that someone's stealing this, stealing that.
Nebraska coach Matt Rule had this to say.
When someone does something against the rules, and sports need rules, right? Sports need rules to keep competitive balance. And when someone does something against the rules, we say, well, should that really even be a rule? And it is the rule. That's the rule, right? Like, I didn't get to play with, we don't get 5 downs, but if that is happening somewhere, it's completely wrong.
Coach Rule also advocated for technology on the field. Speakers in the quarterback's helmets like you see in the NFL, one speaker helmet on offense, one on defense. One usually goes to the QB and a linebacker. And that's so coaches can play call directly to the field, which would cut down on sign stealing for sure. The thing is, a rule is a rule is a rule. Should it be there? I mean, yeah, we could debate that all day, but until it's dismantled, you have to answer to it. And it doesn't matter if you think everyone else is doing it. Everyone agreed to the rules of the game, and if you get caught, you gotta pay. But how much? If guilty is charged, are we talking about suspending a coach? Fines? Are we possibly talking about vacating wins for past and present seasons? I hope not. I mean, time will tell. But I feel bad for the players because they're having one hell of a season. I mean, they're the betting favorite for the #1 spot in the college football playoff rankings, and they've got a real Heisman favorite in quarterback J.J. McCarthy. I mean, I hate that such a killer season has been tarnished by these allegations, and they're gonna need everything they got if they make it to the national championship game, because I could easily see it being Michigan and Georgia. And they're going to have to do everything they can to take it from the grip of those back-to-back Georgia champions. All right, guys, that's our show. And as always, I'm always interested in hearing your comments, your opinions. So make sure you go to my YouTube page at the Demetria Obilor so you can join in on the conversation as well. Well, I'll see you here next Thursday. Until then, I hope you guys have an amazing week and a very, very happy Halloween.